Good afternoon and welcome back to my channel. What I thought we would do today, I had cause. I was out in the garden the other day doing some work and I was sort of just reflecting on all of the sort of things I've done in the garden over the last couple of years since I've moved in, and kind of the ones that have been real game changers for the garden. Things that I would do time and time again. I've loved the result of it, and it's really just improved the garden space and or improved my life. So I actually wanted to share a couple of those with you today, just to give you some inspiration in the event that you're looking for ideas for your own spaces. You might be able to take something away from this video. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. The first thing, now these are in no particular order, but I'm going to start with this one just because I've started the video in this corner of the garden. The first one is these solar water features. Absolute game changers. I have several of these in the garden, and I have two exactly the same like this in the back garden. I will show you the other one in a moment. They're just incredible, absolutely incredible. They were a very cost-effective way to install water features into my space. The size of these are absolutely perfect. As you know, I have quite a small sort of garden here, like a small cottage garden, and the sizes of these, perfection. They add just such elegance to the space, the sound of them, they're perfect. Cannot rave about them enough. I'm pretty sure you can get these on Amazon. I think you can get them from a few different places. So I will link them in the description box down below in the event that you're looking for something like this for your own space. But as I said, they are solar. So there is no electrics required and there is no plumbing required. I have actually unboxed one of these with you, and we assembled it together in a video. So I will also link that video in the description box in the event you'd like to watch that and kind of just see what it looks like coming straight out of the box and how easy they are to assemble. They're so easy. I'm not a plumber, I'm not particularly handy or anything like that. These are so incredibly easy. It basically just comes, the base is one piece, this bowl is a piece, this here is a piece, this bowl is a piece, and this bit here is another piece. There's a little tiny pump that lives in there, and then there's a pipe that kind of just goes through. I won't go on about the assembly on it. I will link the video where I assembled one of these with you down below. But yeah, so they're just solar. They turn on and off with the sun. And as I said, I think that they're so elegant, and that sound throughout the garden and throughout the house. So where I have positioned these, I can hear it all through the house as well. So it's just really beautiful. So unbelievably happy with them. As I said, they are quite cost effective as well, and I believe this brand does a number of different designs. This is just my favorite design, but depending on your own taste and your own space, you might like something different. Now they do turn on and off, as I said, with the sun. But let's say you were having a garden party at night time. What you could do is actually turn the solar panel off, let it charge with the sun throughout the day, and then turn it on at night time when your guests arrive. And then this would run for several hours throughout the night. So there is sort of a battery pack on the solar panel, which I will show you in a moment. And so you can actually store solar power to run these at night time as well. But yes, the other little thing that I probably just wanted to note here is, as I have said, there is no plumbing required. So this water here, I have just filled from the garden tap, and you do need to keep an eye on the water levels. You don't want to run out of water because the pump will continue. And if the pump continues and there's no water in there, you run the risk of burning out the pump. So it's just important to kind of keep an eye on your water levels. If you're in a hot climate, the water will obviously evaporate quicker. So you might just find that you need to top up the water maybe every, 3 days or so. But in cooler seasons, you might get a whole week before you even need to add water to it. The other little sort of maintenance thing I would like to mention is on windy days, as the wind is just sort of starting here now, like leaves and things like that can actually get here into this water, and that just means that you do kind of need to clean them out periodically. Again, it's not something you have to do every day, but depending on the location of your water feature will depend on how often you need to clear it out. So as an example, this one here, you can see there is actually no trees or anything that overshadow the plant. So very rare do I get leaves or any sort of debris forming in this water feature. So this particular one is unbelievably low maintenance because it is quite shaded, this area as well, so the water doesn't evaporate as quick, but it's so low maintenance. I probably clean it out maybe once a month, if that, and I just sort of top the water up maybe once a week. I just get a watering can, fill it up under the tap in the laundry or in the kitchen sink, and then just very easily top up some of the water there. And so I'll just show you here. This here is the solar panel. So I've just got it here on the sun deck so that it gets a lot of the daytime sun, but it's fairly small. You could definitely hide it somewhere if you didn't want it, to be really visible. Completely dependent on you and your preference. It just obviously needs to be somewhere where it gets the most amount of sun possible. So that's that solar water feature there, and I will actually take you around now and I will show you the other one. Now this is the other solar water feature. This is the one that we actually assembled together in the video. Again, I'll link it down below. But as you can see, this one is actually overshadowed. You can see little birds there. Is actually overshadowed with these leaves here. So I do find that leaves drop into this bowl, and I probably do have to clean this one out more regularly than the other one. You all know I like my garden to be very low maintenance, so in the coming weeks I am actually going to be getting just these branches here cut off so that this water feature just isn't overshadowed anymore, and I will get less debris in this water. I think it will also do really well for the other plants here. They'll get a bit more sun during the day, which will be great. But they are the two water features. As I said, really cost effective. I think depending on whether you can get them on sale or not, I think that they almost range from like $160 to like $190. So that's Australian. So not crazy expensive, but I will find some potentially on Amazon and I will link them down below. Isn't that just gorgeous? That sound. Okay, so that is my sort of first game-changing aspect of my garden. So unbelievably happy with these solar water features. I cannot talk about them enough. Incredible purchases, and they really just add that sort of elegance, that whimsy to your garden space. Now, while we are over here, I wanted to talk about these concrete pathways. Absolute game changer. I have talked about the concrete pathways in previous videos. If I had to do these paths again, knowing what I know now, I probably would have gotten, I know some concrete, you can actually get it stenciled so that it looks like stones, or you can get the concrete that's got the little pebbles in it. I probably would have done that just to give it a bit more of a aesthetic, sort of, a bit more artistic to the space. In saying that, I am over the moon with these concrete pathways. Best thing ever. In the future, maybe in a couple of years' time, I do know you can actually top your concrete with, I think they call it like pebblecrete. And it's basically just like a little sort of clear layer they put over the top of the concrete that has pebbles in it. And I think it would just give it that kind of cottagey vibe a little bit more than the plain concrete. So maybe that's something I'll do in the years to come. But so happy with this. No weeds grow through the concrete. The concrete obviously stays where it is. So if we get a lot of rain, I'm not, gravel and that isn't just washing away. I'm not getting holes that I've got to fill with gravel. It's just there. It's easy to maintain. If I've got leaves and things like that, I can get the leaf blower out and just blow the leaves off, and I'm not sending gravel and rocks and things like that everywhere. Best decision ever was getting this concrete here and having these concrete pathways. I have said it in a video before, but I also found, because I had quite a small garden space, by creating these pathways in the garden, it actually, to me, makes the garden feel a bit bigger, because I've sort of got all these different little pathways that you can go. I can kind of just come out here in the early morning with a cup of tea and just go for a little wander around my garden, which is just really incredible. And for a small space, just, a real game changer. So I definitely would do the concrete pathways again without any hesitation. Just the low maintenance aspects of them, incredible. Do consider your drainage requirements though. So because these concrete pathways are sort of quite narrow, obviously drainage, I can get drainage on, into the garden beds and that, but I actually do have a sort of side access space that I didn't concrete. I actually left it as a sort of gravel. You know what? I'm just going to take you over there. Let me take you over there. All right. So this is what I was talking about here. So I've actually left this sort of side area of the garden as like gravel, and I've just popped stepping stones throughout. But I've left it as gravel because I have to have it like that for drainage requirements. If I was to put concrete here, the water would pool. So if you are considering putting concrete pathways anywhere throughout your garden, really consider your drainage requirements, and also possibly, as with my concrete my concrete pathways are actually tilted slightly so that the water runs away from the house. So that's something to consider as well. But having these gravel pathways with the stones, it's quite a magical kind of thing to me, I think. I've got a few of these in different areas of the garden, just little rambling pathways up into garden beds. Again, I think it really adds something. So we'll just head back out into the main cottage garden space. So this is just another example. As I was just saying, I have popped in just other pathways that are quite just little magical pathways up into garden beds that you can kind of meander along as well if you've got your cup of tea or a coffee. Now, the third game-changing thing that I just love about my garden is this right here. So I have spoken about it before, but this is actually an adopted beehive. These are Australian native stingless bees, and adopted them maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. So they have been here for quite a while. What sort of happens is when loggers are out and they are felling trees, they do actually check the trees for beehives. And if they find a beehive, they actually preserve the hive, and you can adopt a hive and pop it in your own garden, which is what I have done here. You don't get any honey or anything like that from the bees. They are just in your garden. They are utterly delightful to watch. They obviously pollinate all the flowers, all the fruit trees, the vegetables, and all those sorts of things. So I absolutely love them. They're so funny to watch. I will zoom in a moment. But yes, so this beehive, game changing for me. And I think what I love about it is it gives your garden a point of interest, I suppose. So for me, it is this beehive. But maybe, where you live, a beehive is just not a practical, it's not practical for you. So I actually saw someone the other day had quite a large cement pot that was quite low. So it was like maybe that high off the ground, but it was a really big cement pot. And they'd painted the inside of it with waterproof paint, and they'd created like a little pond out of it, and they had goldfish and they had water plants and all of that in there. And it just was, it was so beautiful how they had done it. And it just created that point of interest in their garden with the goldfish. And, when you're outside and you're enjoying your space, being able to, in my case, watch the bees come in and out, or watch, the bees in the flowers and things like that. It's just really fun. It's a really fun thing to do. And similarly, I think with like a pond or something along those lines, having, little fish in a pond and being able to go outside with your cup of tea and, watch the fish swim around, or whatever it may be where you are, whatever sort of animal or point of interest you would like to introduce to your garden. I think it adds something, is what I'm trying to say there. But yes, so this is the beehive. It is the middle of the day, so I don't know if there are any going in and out at the moment. You can see a few there around the entrance. So as I said, they are an Australian native bee. They are stingless, so they have no stingers or anything like that on them. And they just live here in this hive as they have for a good 4 years. I don't stop them from coming or going. I don't interfere with them in any way. They just live out their lives now in my little cottage garden here. You can kind of see them going in and out there. We're about to get some rain here, so I suspect they have all gone into the hive so that their wings don't get wet. But I will link another video down below where I sort of go more in depth with the beehive. So if you're interested in that, you can watch that video. But yes, this is, I think, am I up to 3? This is definitely my sort of third aspect that something I've introduced into the garden that I just absolutely love. Brings me so much joy to watch them. Now, point number 4, I'm pretty sure we're up to number 4, is these raised vegetable beds. I did not start out with raised vegetable beds. I actually got I think they're called a veggie pod. It's like a garden shrug. If I can find the image, I'll pop one on screen now so you can see what I'm talking about. I got one of those to start with and basically just wanted to see how I kind of got on with growing a few of my own vegetables, whether it was something that I enjoyed doing. Turns out I did enjoy doing it. And so I kind of graduated from that kind of independent sort of freestanding vegetable trug into sort of set raised garden beds. I didn't get these wood ones. I think I've only had these for about a year. I did have temporary, sort of very cheap raised beds here. Again, kind of seeing how I got on with the space, how I got on with the size. Was this too much space? Was it not enough space? Growing my own vegetables for me was really just something I wanted to do as a bit of a hobby and something that brings me joy. So it's not something that I put a lot of pressure on myself about. I don't grow, all of my own food or anything like that. It's really just something that I do to enjoy, and the pleasure I get from planting a seed and watching it grow and taking care of it and watching it get bigger each week, and then flower and vegetables forming, and then being able to harvest those vegetables and eat the vegetables that I've grown from scratch is incredible. Being able to do that is such a luxury, I think, that I have this space and that I'm able to do that, first off. And secondly, I think it has given me such an appreciation for the food that I consume, even from, a farmer's market or a supermarket or your local farm shop. The amount of time and effort that farmers have to put into, growing every single cucumber or every tomato, and it really gave me that appreciation and I think understanding of, what they kind of go through, because I know what I have to go through just to, harvest one or two cucumbers or leeks or spring onions and things like that. And so this space brings me a lot of joy. As I said, it's not something that I put a lot of pressure on myself about. I really just grow things that I enjoy. It's definitely something that I'm always learning. I think every growing season is something new, and I always try, some new vegetables, and I'm always embracing that change, and some vegetables don't work out, and that's okay. And I know not to grow those ones again, but it has truly brought me so much joy, this space. Vegetable growing is certainly not for everyone. Just because you enjoy gardening does not mean that you want to grow your own vegetables. It is a lot of extra work. The bugs alone, trying to keep your vegetables bug free so that you get to enjoy them all after all of your hard work, is very difficult. But for me personally, it does bring me a lot of joy, and my little vegetable garden space here isn't massive. It's certainly manageable for me and for the amount of time that I have. And it's something that I guess I go on a bit of a journey with each growing season. And I think each growing season I improve, I try something new, I learn something new. And so each season I get better and better at growing, which is a joy in itself and such a nice learning experience for me. And I hope, I guess, on this channel as well, as I'm filming videos, you'll come along with me on that journey. And as I'm learning, composting and what vegetables grow and how I harvest things and all those sorts of things, I'll sort of bring you along for all of those triumphs and possible failures as well. And, it's never a failure, I think. I think it's a learning experience, and maybe, if something doesn't work out the way that I thought it was, maybe it's a great opportunity to try something different. But yes, so these vegetable beds have been incredible for me. Such a joy, such a pleasure to be able to watch, tomatoes grow and how they ripen, and my own leeks and cucumbers and all of those sorts of things. On that, having raised beds, incredible for me. I think if I had just planted, directly in the ground here, having to get all the way down on your hands and knees to be able to, maintain the garden and harvest and things like that, it would just be, I don't know, off-putting, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but it would just be that little bit of extra work. And I think having the raised beds just kind of lifts it up a little bit so that you're not sort of hurting your back or anything like that, while you're working in the vegetable garden. And I think aesthetically as well, it is quite nice. I think the wood in that really complements the garden, and I think it just creates that sort of set, defined space for the vegetables, which I really enjoy. So I'll just flip around to the other side. I also put these here in, and the reason for that is because I can actually, so in summer, if it's really hot, I can pull a shade sail over the top of this to give the vegetables some protection. The other thing that's really good for is I intend to grow like pumpkin vines and things along the top. I can put baskets of strawberries and things along there as well. So I think that's kind of given me a vertical growing space as well. So I was really pleased with that. It's not something that I've been able to experiment with too much as yet, but I'm very hopeful for the next growing season that I'll be able to start some tomatoes and strawberries and baskets and all that kind of thing. So I will bring you along for that as I'm doing it. But yes, definitely having raised beds has been incredible. If you can hear that rumbling, that is thunder coming this way. But yeah, so having raised beds, incredible. The other thing I have, which is game changing, with particularly with raised beds here, you know what, I'm going to show you. Hold that thought. Okay, I wanted to show you this. This is a seat, a garden seat on wheels. I've had it for about a year. I apologize for how dirty it is, but it is something that is very well loved in the garden. My mum loves this. She's on this. So it is a seat, let me show you, and it completely spins. I totally need to wheel it, and then it's on like little sort of bicycle wheels, if you can see there. So you can be, let's say here, sitting here working in the raised vegetable beds, and then as you're working, you just move along. Yeah, game changing. Raised vegetable beds and this little seat, an absolute game changer. The other thing it's really good for is like this. So instead of having to get sort of down on your knees or on one of those garden pads, you know, those like foam pads that you can pop on pathways so that you can work in the garden without hurting your back. This is like this little tiny seat that you can just wheel along as you're working. Incredible. But yeah, so that's that there. I bought it about a year ago, so I will see if I can find something similar online. If I can, I'll link it in the description box down below. But if there are any companies who create garden tools ever watching this, please get in contact with me, because I have some suggestions on how we could improve something like this, and it would just be epic, because it's definitely a game changer, but it could certainly be better. I've got so many ideas. It could be so much better. But yes, so I can't remember what point we're up to now, but raised vegetable beds, brilliant, nice to find space, really contains your vegetables into like a kitchen garden area. And this little seat, incredible. Now, I have already said I like a low maintenance garden, so I do not want to spend a lot of time weeding or anything like that. And my biggest tip to you, and an absolute game changer for me, ground covers. Ground covers, if you're not somebody who likes to weed, ground covers are your friend. So I have sort of two varieties that I have used mostly in my garden. I will say this is my absolute preferred. I will find the name of it and I will pop it on screen for you. But it has, so like this is it close up. I'll show you just so you can kind of see the height of it. So it doesn't grow very high. It is a ground cover. And then it has these beautiful little flowers on it, which I just think are stunning. And what the ground cover does is it just suppresses the weeds. So because the ground cover has grown through all of the plants, the weeds can't get through that. And so I just find, storm is getting closer. I just find that by having these ground covers, it just like this whole bed has ground covers. I never weed here. There's never any weeds. There is the very rare occasional weed that I have to pull out, but by the time it gets through this, it's usually, you know, at a reasonable height and very easy for me to remove. So that is this one here. Again, I will put the name on the screen once I find it. I just cannot remember off the top of my head. This one is my absolute favorite ground cover. Then the other one that I have, let me just go around the other side, one moment. This is the other one. So I affectionately call it a foxtail. I do not think that that is its technical name. If I can find the name of it, I will link it on screen as well. This ground cover is incredible. It covers a lot of space and it is very hardy. It will grow in sun, shade, similar to the other ground cover that I mentioned that grows in sun, shade, doesn't matter, very hardy. My issue with this one is it is quite aggressive and it gets quite tall. So it does actually, you can see here, it grows up into the other plants, which I do not like. That means I have to kind of maintain it and constantly cut it back down so that it's not suffocating the other plants. So that's my only negative on this one. It is beautiful, but you can see, I'll just go down so you can kind of see. It does get quite high. So that's my negative, I think, is that it is quite aggressive. So depending on the space you have, this may not be the ground cover for you, because it does just require that bit of extra maintenance to make sure that it doesn't sort of suffocate your other plants. But yes, ground cover, absolute game changers, and really helps to suppress those weeds so that your garden is way more low maintenance. Cannot recommend enough. 5 stars. Now, this is not an area that I would normally show you of my garden. It's not a very attractive sort of space, but it is very practical and an absolute game changer. This is my irrigation for the entire back cottage garden. So it's basically, I have just a normal hose. This is this one here, and then I have 3 different zones in the cottage garden, and so that's what those 3 are. And then I have the timer. It's a manual. I think you can get automatic ones of these. I prefer a manual one because for me, what it means is that if we've had a lot of rain, I don't have to put the sprinkler on. If I know that we've had rain and we've had a sufficient amount of rain, I don't bother turning it on. Whereas with an automatic one, I might miss it, and we could have had, you know, a lot of rain the day before, and then the automatic one goes on the next day and the garden didn't really need it. And water is expensive, and I also do not like to waste it. So that is the main irrigation point here. And so I can just turn it on manually, turn the timer on, you know, set it for half an hour, and it will work. It'll do a zone, then it will turn itself off, and then I'll sort of pop back out and put the next zone on and do that one for, you know, another half an hour, etc. I will find for you, let me turn you around slowly so that you don't get motion sickness. You can see here, that is one of the irrigation points. So my irrigation is top watering. So when it turns on, the water comes out here and then waters the plants. If I turn here, you can see that is my irrigation sort of pipe. The water will come from the tap through this pipe and then go up through the irrigation. Having irrigation, complete game changer. So incredible. One of the things I would most recommend putting in your garden is irrigation like this. And as I said, my irrigation tap, it's manual. I still manage it manually. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. There's probably YouTube videos online showing you how to set one up yourself if you're particularly handy. I am trying to think, I don't think I set that one up myself in the very beginning, but like Mum and I can both, you know, add new pipes and things now, and we can maintain it and all that kind of stuff. So once it's in, it's very easy to maintain, but it is epic. It saves so much time. And I think having a professional do it to begin with, they'll be able to tell you like where your pipes need to go to ensure you get the best coverage. so that the most of your plants are getting that water, and particularly if your property has a bit of a fall to it, to make sure that the water's running in the right directions, all those sorts of things. So sometimes having a professional kind of do that initial setup for you, if you're not well versed in irrigation and in setting those things up, can be really good in the beginning, and then after that you can kind of just maintain it yourself and then run new lines when you need to, and change sprinkler heads and change the height if your plants grow, all that kind of thing. In coming videos, the next time I have to do any sort of irrigation maintenance, I will film that just so you can kind of see what the process is and how I go about it and do it for my garden. But yes, irrigation, make sure you get your irrigation in. It is incredible. I mentioned it in my video that was like how I transformed my garden, that I actually lay all of my irrigation pipes before I put the concrete paths in. So I have irrigation pipes that actually go up under the concrete to get to beds like this that are actually circled with pathways. So just be aware of that, and maybe consider that. If you are going to be putting pathways in and things, do you want irrigation? Will any of the lines kind of go under your pathways? Because it would just be good to get that in before you lay all your concrete. Obviously, concrete can be pulled up. It's just expensive to do that. So if you can get all that kind of infrastructure stuff done first, I think that will really help. But yes, so you can see there's like another one here. That's an irrigation point there. Game changing. I love my irrigation. Now, my last little game changing sort of aspect of the garden is this here. This is a sun deck that I put in maybe 2 years ago. I have a slope on my property, so that's why I went with a sun deck. But what I will say is having a space in your garden that is a bit of an early morning sun trap. So you can see at the moment it's quite cloudy because we're about to get a storm, but in the early morning, this space gets really beautiful early morning sun. Now I've got like recliners, sun lounges is what I'm looking for. I've got sun lounges here, but obviously you could put like a little outdoor setting with like tables and chairs, somewhere where you can go in the morning and have your cup of tea or have your coffee, you know, just kind of immerse yourself, listen to the birds, get that early morning sun. Truly beautiful. And even if you don't have an outdoor space, like if you live in an apartment and you have a balcony, if your balcony gets early morning sun, incredible. Or if you're in an apartment that doesn't have a balcony, but you have a window, for example, that gets early morning sun, maybe you put a comfortable chair there, you know, and just in the morning you can get your cup of tea or your coffee, curl up in your chair and just, you know, 10-20 minutes of early morning sun is incredible. So for me, putting this sun deck in as my early morning space has just been incredible. I just come out here and I lay down on these chairs, and I mean, I don't even bring a book, I don't bring my phone or an iPad or anything like that. I just come out, I lay down, I get, you know, 10-20 minutes of early morning sun, and I just listen to the birds or I listen to the wind in the trees, you know, and it's just gorgeous. It's that really nice downtime. It's that time for me that I get to enjoy, and I'm just getting, you know, that early morning sun, which they totally recommend for you. So I would highly recommend, if you have a space in your garden or in your home that gets early morning sun, set yourself up with just a cozy little space where you can have a cup of tea or a coffee, or just sit in silence and just breathe for a minute, you know, listen to the birds, listen to the sounds around you, and just enjoy that time. So this has definitely been something that I have absolutely loved since it's come in. It's something that I use all the time. Cannot recommend it enough, having that kind of a space in your garden. All right, so this video is probably getting a bit long, so I might actually end it here. I hope you have enjoyed it today. Something a little bit different, kind of sharing, I guess, my favorite aspects of the garden with you. And I hope you were able to take a little bit of inspiration or some ideas from that, something that you might be able to incorporate into your own space. But I'm about to start getting rained on, so I might head inside. I'm going to bid you farewell. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, I would like to ask that you like and subscribe. And I will see you next week for another new video. I think we will definitely be getting into the heavy Christmas content next week. I think I've got planned to put up all my Christmas trees. Mum and I are going to have a very festive day and we're going to be sharing that with you. So I will see you next week, and I think there will be some additional videos as well. So definitely subscribe. I highly recommend you subscribe, because I think over the next couple of weeks I will be trying to do sort of maybe 2 or 3 videos a week if I can. So I will see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much again. See you later.